I hate that they don't open with the gun barrel. They saved it for the end of Quantum, and that made sense. But now we're just putting it at the end again for no reason other than Sam Mendes also wants to be different, like the two filmmakers that came before him.
I think you're wrong.
I don't even remember the gun barrel. When does it happen?
The gun barrel's at the end again. This movie could have opened up with the gun barrel because the last two movies established, like, we're done. Like, Bond's Bond now. Let's just open up the third movie with the gun barrel. But they don't. They save it for the end again. And I think that's just more pretentious shit.
I don't think it's pretentious. I think it goes again with because again, I think the first two Bonds in the Craig series, we get to into Quantum, it doesn't quite feel like Bond just yet. We get to Skyfall, they bring back all the elements that made Bond feel like Bond. Like when we talked about with GoldenEye.
Then they should have opened it with the fucking gun barrel. No, that's my point. Open it with the gun barrel. No, you end it with the gun barrel because that is when all the pieces fall into place. When Bond walks into the door and you see M for the first time and it's Mallory instead of Judi Dench M and he's in the old office, that's why you do that. I guess, but that conflicts with this idea of Bond being old. The whole thing, there's a theme about this being old Bond. We're to assume that Bond has been through tons of adventures by Skyfall comes around. Skyfall is like, you're old now.
We're both played out.
You know the rules of the game. You've been playing it long enough.
Maybe too long.
Why not stay dead?
It's a young man's game.
Old dog.
We're to assume that between Quantum and Skyfall, he's had all kinds of adventures in the whatever 6-year period or whatever.
I think when you're looking at because again, we've watched all these movies. We've watched all 23 up to this point, probably other 2 movies. We've watched all the movies at this point, but I feel like James Bond works better when he has his allies with him. Again, that's also why I like that it ends with the gun barrel. Now, I believe the next movie they start off with it because I do feel like all the pieces are in place. Now this is Bond. I think, again, I'm going to just jump ahead and say like one of my issues with the Craig series as a whole is that they started off with like, we're going to reboot this franchise without really understanding how they were going to go about it outside of that first film. Because they were like, oh, we got Casino Royale. We're going to do Casino Royale. What do we do next? A story that continues Casino Royale. And then what do you got? This version of Goldfinger? Okay.
John Logan, what do you got? What do you got?
And then when we get to the next 2 movies, I think it gets worse. I think I'll have a lot more to say about the next 2 movies. But I do feel like this movie was at least Sam Mendes, because I think even when I read all this stuff about the movies and John Logan and all the stuff they're talking about, I think the intention really lands on, okay, we're not exactly there yet. You guys think we are. There's like, this is Bond, but this is not the Bond. And I know, Charlie, I understand where you're coming from, where it's like, this feels like it's a movie for casual fans and not real fans, but I would argue the opposite. I feel like they wanted to gear this back to like what Bond was. So it's like you're starting at a place where it's like, how does he become James Bond? How does he get over his first mission? Now we're at a point where he's like, he's kind of there yet, but he's not there yet. Yeah. And now we actually have his full team, and this is like the James Bond that we're used to. This is the status quo. We're back to that. And so that's why I feel like that end point makes a lot of sense.
But it's the third movie. I care more about Bond's character being established and then bringing about the gun barrel, rather than worrying about bringing in Moneypenny, Q, and
even
M.
Outside of all that explanation, I think it's a nitpick. What's the next thing?
Oh, dude, my list is going to be nitpicks. There are going to be nitpicks in my list, but that's what I mean. It's like down to the nitty gritty about I love some shit and I hate some shit.